Hello and welcome to another episode of That Cruise Show. Today we have our faithful co-hosts Ashley and James, who wish they were on a cruise right now, relaxing and having a great time. We also want to welcome our guest today, Linda Heckman from American Cruise Lines, who is going to tell us all about the amazing places American Cruise Lines goes. Let's start off today with any news or topics that might interest our fellow cruise lovers. James, do you have anything new that you've heard?
I'm just excited that cruise lines are starting to cruise again. I have always been a champion. I hate to say like I'm a shill, but I've always been a champion of the cruise lines for sanitation. I know that a lot of cruise lines get bad press sometimes for various things, but frankly, I would feel much more safe anytime on a cruise ship than I would in a resort or a hotel. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what some of the small ships are doing, as well as what some of the big guys like Dream World cruises. They're starting up, and then there's some German riverboat cruises as well. So fingers crossed to see what they can do, and beyond that, I'm just excited to see what innovations will hopefully be configured from necessity that will actually improve the experience. And I'm sure Linda has some ideas and some things that they're doing, but that's about it.
Necessity, the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Ashley? Anything you've heard lately that sad or happy either note?
I feel like James talked about the good news first. Just some things in the last week or so with the cruising dates for the mainstream cruise lines being pushed back until at least the end of September now. And the CDC, the lines had pushed back a while ago, but the CDC has officially come out and said that they're going to do the same and kind of ban cruises until September 30th into and out of North America. But the good news too is that I feel like lines are being a little more forthcoming with some of the stuff they're thinking about doing in order to protect the cruisers. So just in terms of, hand washing stations and mask wearing, potentially, I don't want to scare anybody into thinking that you're going to have to wear one, but temperature checks, stuff like that. So both good news and bad news, I guess.
And I also wanted to add too that that's on the bad news, good news side that we're starting to get more information about where the 13 Carnival Corp ships are going to, and at least that's some good news that we're moving through things and getting rid of some of the ambiguity. Though I'm sad to see Carnival Fantasy. Obviously, totally different end of the spectrum than what we're talking about today. But Carnival Fantasy was certainly a legendary ship that honestly deserves better than the fate that's probably going to get at the hands of a guy with a blowtorch in a scrapyard in Turkey. But that's the industry, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they also announced that 4 of the Holland America ships are going to be leaving the Holland America fleet. So that's some more bad news. But on the good news front, some of the river cruises have resumed, which kind of ties into what we're talking about today. The ones that have resumed are mainly in Europe, I believe, but we're hoping that the U.S. won't be too far behind.
Exactly.
So are we. So are we.
Well, let's move on to find all about American Cruise Lines from you, Linda. If you have any questions for Linda, please type in your questions and we'll try to get it answered. Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Linda.
I'm going to start with just giving you guys a little bit of information about who American Cruise Lines is and what we do, and we can go from there, okay? So American Cruise Lines has been in business 35 years. We are headquartered in Guilford, Connecticut. We own a yard where we build our ships on the Chesapeake Bay in Salisbury, Maryland. So we are a family-owned, privately owned operation. Currently have 13 ships in our fleet. This year we will add the American Jazz this fall, and next year we'll add the American Melly. So we'll have a total of 15 come next year. So we are known for, of course, the mighty Mississippi River. However, picture in your mind the map of the United States and start in Maine. You can literally take one of our ships from Maine, the 3,000 miles down the intercoastal waterway to Florida, if that's what you choose to do. And we're happy to have you do it. And you want to pet that manatee, come along with us. You'll be happy to do it. So we literally have 35 plus itineraries, and we're in 25 states. So little known to most people, they think of us as just the Mississippi River. And it is a very big part of what we do. And the most popular itinerary that we have is going to be the lower Mississippi, and it always will be. People love New Orleans. They love the grandeur of the antebellum South, and that's great. But they're little known on the Columbia River, and they're little known on the Cumberland River and such. So, we're literally Maine all the way across to Alaska, literally. So being U.S. registered means several different things than what foreign registered cruise lines are. Starting with, we have to have an original U.S. hull in our ship. Has to be an original U.S. hull. Okay, so we choose to build them. There's one ship in our fleet that we did not build. We did buy the Queen of the West from her previous owner. Everything else was built in our yard. Okay. Our newest ships are the Song, the Harmony. I mentioned the Jazz and the Melody. Those will be our 4 newest modern luxury ships. And the no sail order from the CDC does not affect us because our ships are not big enough to be bothered by that. I shouldn't say bothered, but to be affected by it. We hold no more than 190 passengers when we are full, and we have voluntarily reduced the capacity by 25% as part of our COVID protocol. So we are U.S. registered, we build them, we crew them, we sail them. By U.S. law, we are required to have a minimum of 75% of our crew be U.S. citizens. We choose to do 100%. All of our deck and engine staff, all of our hotel staff, everybody is the U.S. citizens. We put Americans back to work, and we certainly need that right now, don't we? So we are hoping to sail in August. We had originally scheduled to return to the Columbia and Snake River on the 20th of June. Sadly, we had our buses there, our crew there, and everybody ready to go. And 2 days before, the governor of Oregon said, yeah, no, can't do it. So unfortunately, those have had to be waylaid and suspended. We also did suspend the entire Alaska season, which is very sad because we don't call in Canada. And we would have been the only ones in Alaska this year. And we do 2 days in Glacier Bay. So it would have been absolutely fabulous on a small ship before you have, the monster ships that invade Alaska every year. So, altogether different kind of cruising. So American Cruise Lines is different in many ways from the other U.S. registered cruise lines. Number one, we have the largest fleet and we have the largest staterooms. All of our cabins are outside. They all have a balcony, unobstructed view. Wonderful. We're incredibly single friendly and we get lots and lots of single travelers, and we do have single cabins on every ship. And are very popular, by the way. So I would strongly recommend for single travelers, please don't wait. Again, the capacity on these ships can be as small as 100 passengers to the maximum of 190. So don't wait. We're anticipating that 2021 is just going to blow up. Completely. Yeah. People have got a pent-up energy to travel. They're going to want to travel. They don't want to take the long flight across the pond. They don't have to worry about, am I going to fly someplace and not be able to get back home? They're going to want to travel in the U.S. And they've got a bucket list. And the bucket list includes the Arch in St. Louis. It includes Multnomah Falls on the Columbia and Snake River. It includes petting that manatee in Florida. All of those things are things that people want to do. They also want to visit Elvis and Graceland. Well, he doesn't live there anymore, I guess, but they still want to visit Elvis and Graceland. He's the night manager at the Burger King in Laguna Niguel. I've seen him there. Yeah, I know. So anyway, it's a completely different type of cruising. All of our ships are single seating in the dining room, and they are open seating, and they always have been. So there's no worrying about somebody coming in the dining room behind you, hurrying up to get out, and so on and so forth. You sit with whomever you want, very leisurely. We never had buffets, and we're certainly not going to start now. So all the meals, and what's a cruise without food, by the way? All the meals are plated, and all the food is fresh. And let me repeat that. All the food is fresh. Nothing is frozen.
Awesome.
Now are you able to... You sail through some phenomenal foodie areas. Because you're small enough and the ship size, are you getting local? So like if I'm in Salisbury, are you getting fresh crab and oysters?
Yeah. When we do our New England sailings, we do lobster bakes on the beach. We do clam bakes on the beach. And we also bring on a lobster guy who picks 3 or 4 people that the next day he takes them out on his lobster boat and teaches you how to do it.
That's so cool.
Awesome. It's totally cool. And boy, is it good food. It's incredible. It's just amazing. And out west, imagine the beautiful salmon and down in New Orleans. And, when you're in the South, imagine the wonderful food. I used to live in New Orleans, so, it's a good eating city. What can I tell you?
Yep.
So there's a lot of wonderful things going on with that. And we also shop a lot of local farmers markets. Now it's the time of year when these farmers markets are blowing up. So we provision locally, and it's very inspired cuisine, very inspired. All of our ships include complimentary to all passengers are featured shore excursions. And they are not hop on, hop off. They are guided tours on the buses that we have decorated to say American Cruise Lines. And just to give you an example, on an Alaskan itinerary with us, a 7-night Alaskan cruise, there are only 3 shore tours that are not included. One of which is a ship charter, a fishing charter. Another would be a kayak adventure, and the third is the Bald Eagle Reserve. Those are 3 that if people want to do, they wouldn't have to pay for. Everything else is included. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's just great. So that's a big difference. We do offer complimentary beer and wine unlimited with both lunch and dinner. We also do a complimentary cocktail party with hors d'oeuvres every evening, about an hour prior to dinner. As long as you're in that dining room by 7:30 or so, you're going to be seated with no problem, no issue whatsoever. And last but certainly not least, of course, Wi-Fi is included and so on and so forth. But last and certainly not least, we don't ask for and we do not accept gratuities. You do not tip our staff.
You pay them a good wage.
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. I mean, people see that final bill come and they see those gratuities added and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. So we don't do that. Now, again, because we're U.S. registered now, we have all that U.S. crew. We're also paying U.S. union wages. So, your price point is going to be entirely different than blue water cruising, entirely different than what blue water cruising is. And again, because we're U.S. registered, we have to pay U.S. federal income tax. All of which is important to know that that's one of the reasons the price point is what it is. But, doesn't mean that there aren't companies out there in the marketplace, because there are deals that are being offered, group discounts and the likes that are being offered. But typically, an American Cruise Line cruise is going to be very similar to a Rocky Mountaineer voyage, a Rocky Mountaineer trip. So if you have Rocky Mountaineer clients, the Rocky Mountaineer client is the perfect client for American Cruise Lines. And
I was going to give you a shout out too. I don't think your prices are terrible. I think if you're comparing a 11-day for $7,000 to a $250 4-day Carnival cruise to Mexico, I mean, yeah, that's a big jump. But when you compare it to like a 10-day Rhine voyage on a riverboat, and you're paying another $2,000 or $3,000 for per person for tickets to get there, suddenly your prices are actually a couple $1,000s cheaper.
Yeah, when you compare apples to apples, and trust me when I tell you, you're getting what you pay for. Yeah. And isn't that the old adage that our mother always taught us? You get what you pay for. You do. So once people sail with us, travel agents and travel advisors that book our clients have got an American Cruise Lines client for life. Our return passenger club is called the Eagle Society. Very popular. Once people sail with us, they're a member of the Eagle Society. They will get wonderful offers from us. They get lots of really cool gifts. And I'm not talking about, a tablet of paper. I'm talking about cool gifts they get. If they book on board for their next voyage, which many people do, they automatically get a 20% savings, and we will comp their port fees. And most importantly, whatever travel agent put them on board the ship is always renumbered the new booking as well, without fail. Without fail. That is, as it should be. So we're very conscious of that. And yes, they're always renumbered back to the agent that put them on board. So, you want to talk a little bit about the protocol, our COVID protocol?
Yeah, that would be great right now.
We were actually, because we were supposed to be the first to go back in the water, and we may still be at this point, we did create the protocol that was approved by the CDC long ago. And it includes a number of things. First of all, we have medical personnel on the ships at all times. We have worked very closely with hospitals on every route that we have along the way, on every sailing, so that if we would need to move somebody off the ship, they can do so. Keep in mind, you're on a river. It's not blue water, so you're not having to worry about getting, emergency people off and so on and so forth. Our staff has been thoroughly trained in recognizing symptoms. We did send PPE, and we still are sending PPE to our customers ahead of time. So they will get the mask from us, they will get the gloves from us, and so on and so forth, that they can wear. Of course, we have them on the ship as well, but they have them ahead of time so that they can bring them with them. We've done pre-screening for everyone. Luggage is all sanitized prior to being delivered to your cabin. Okay. All public restrooms are closed. So you lavatory only in your own cabin. And probably most important, and this is a big deal again, because we build these ships, there is no shared HVAC ducting, period, on the ship. Everybody's got their own ductwork in their cabin, so there's no transmission from one cabin or the public areas anyplace else. It's all individual ductwork, which is huge.
That's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's huge. It's huge. Yeah. Very exciting. So,
Just want to give it a couple comments on Facebook. Hey, Brandy, how's it going? And then Pub Club asks, what about discount drink packages for future cruises?
Don't need it. You don't need it. It's all included. You can literally start
even spirits, like you mentioned, beer and wine. Are spirits are included
beer
too?
and wine starts coming out about 10:30 in the morning, and the cocktail party starts an hour or so, like 5 o'clock is when the cocktail party starts. We don't sell a drink package because nobody wants to buy it. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, people that are not drinkers have no issue whatsoever because, anything they want, the coffee machines are up all day long, the iced tea machines are up, the juice is up, water, whatever they might need, soft drinks, it's all available to them at any point in time. We've also created some alternative dining on the ships, and one of them is outdoor dining, which is great. So we've got outdoor dining, and you can do room service if you want to and sit on your balcony if you choose to do so. For all 3 meals, if that's what you want to do.
One thing I love is, go
Linda.
ahead, Ashley.
I was just going to ask, Linda, I know you had mentioned that you think 2021 is going to be a big year. Are you anticipating a lot of ocean cruisers coming over and trying river for the first time? Or are you thinking that maybe it's more going to be people who've already cruised with you and are just really starved for a vacation at this point?
It's actually both, Ashley, to be quite honest with you. We have a number of people that have pre-booked for next year that are, of course, Eagle Society members and have been with us a number of times and are trying to get their foot in the door so they know that the sailing they want is available. Stop and think about the Hudson River Valley. We sail the Hudson River Valley out of New York for fall foliage. Now, there won't be any Canada New England sailings this year. Canada has told us all, we'll see you next year, bye-bye. But we have fall foliage on the Hudson River, and we'll have it on the upper Midwest as well from the Twin Cities. So those are sailings that are incredibly popular, and the ships that are used on those are 125 passenger ships. They're going to sell fast. It's interesting too, because I believe that people have a bucket list. Everybody's got a bucket list. I mean, I've been to all states but 2, and I was supposed to go to the Dakotas this year. That's not happening, but whatever. I'll get there eventually. So, but most people have a bucket list. I had a conversation with a gentleman a few weeks ago who told me proudly that he'd been to 104 different countries, which is fabulous. And he'd been to the top of the Eiffel Tower 7 times, which is also fabulous. That's great. I'm happy for you. I asked him if he'd ever been to the top of the arch in St. Louis. He said, no. I said, well, you know what? You can see Paris from the top of the arch in St. Louis. So I would strongly suggest you put that on your bucket list. So.
That begs an interesting question. Heather and I have done all 50 states, and we absolutely love road trips. In fact, I was at we were at a launch in January for another cruise line, and some of the travel agents around us were like, Mississippi, Great Lakes, and we're like, Great Lakes, woohoo, and that kind of stuff. But whenever we travel, we run into Australians, and what's that?
They've apparently never been to Mackinac Island.
Exactly. But But whenever we travel, we run into Australians and Germans and French, and like we were in Arkansas, and these people from Australia who had listened to this guy on Armed Services Radio had flown halfway across the world to go to this town that has like 150 people.
Right.
So are you attracting
Yes.
Australians and that kind of stuff too? Okay.
Yes. We get a number of Australians, and of course, they're drawn to the lower Mississippi. They love the lower Mississippi and the magic of New Orleans, which has got quite a draw. Let's face it. I'm sure it's the food and the French Quarter, but then the gators. I want to see those gators.
Australians never drink though.
Oh no. As we call them in New Orleans, those Louisiana yard dogs that are the gators. And we take people out on a swamp tour if that's what they want to do. We'll give you the ghost tour, and you can go to Marie Laveau's grave in New Orleans if that's what you want to do. Fine with us, we'll take you. So, yeah, we get a lot of Aussies. We do get Europeans, mainly Brits, for the most part. Occasionally we'll get a group of Germans that come over, but typically it's going to be Aussies, and Kiwis come, and Brits, which is great.
The staff on the ships obviously it's an American, so it's English dominant, but do you have people that speak French and German and Spanish as well, or?
Oh, I'm sure there are staff members that are bilingual. I mean, I can say cerveza and those kinds of things.
Cerveza is the only thing you really need to know.
Well, that and vino.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure there are people that are bilingual, but for the most part, I mean, you and I both know that everybody in Europe speaks English. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They speak it. It's their second language for the most part, unless they grew up, in Dresden, and in Dresden, Russian was their second language. So,
Now,
yeah, for the most part.
I was going to say really quick, I noticed you have some holiday cruises.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually did Christmas market cruise in Europe a few years ago, but I've always wanted to do the Antebellum South Christmas thing, and you guys have that, but you have it in Florida as well. People don't realize you can cruise on Florida's rivers.
Yes. Yeah, the rivers and the intercoastal.
Yes.
I've actually seen your ships go by. My parents had a house in Charleston, not Charleston. Well, they're Charleston now, but Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd always see your ships go by, and that looks like fun.
Yep, exactly. We do a wonderful cruise from Charleston down to Fernandina Beach, which is great. Amelia Island, Fernandina Beach, which is a great trip to do. And then from there, we go into the rivers, the Palaca River and such. And I'm not kidding. You can reach out almost and touch a manatee. The ships have a very shallow draft, so it's entirely possible. We can get into places that others can't because of the draft of the vessels.
Now, I know Heather is going gog. I'm a Snake River guy. I love that region. I love the wine. In case you couldn't tell by the winery in back of me. But Heather absolutely loves and is enamored by your great rivers of Florida. And frankly, I never realized that there was rivers that you could cruise in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to throw this up there for you. So hopefully that shows up in the screen. But I think that's really cool. You can leave from Jacksonville and it kind of goes around.
Green Stings and the Palaca River, yeah.
So tell us about some of the things that you would see there that you wouldn't necessarily see on a typical river cruise. Because I definitely don't think that Florida sounds like the right kind. Not the right, but the typical kind of place. And that's what I love about you guys, that there's all these destinations that you maybe have to think a little harder, but once you do it, you're like, this looks so cool.
Yeah, I mean, we do a a Revolutionary War cruise that we do out of Baltimore, where we take people to Mount Vernon and we go to all the monuments in D.C. and so on and so forth. This particular cruise in Florida includes not only the viewing of those beautiful manatees, but there's a dolphin discovery that you can take. And we'll take you out to look at the dolphins and play with the dolphins if you want to do so. It's totally wonderful, incredibly relaxing. Just imagine sitting on your private balcony with your unobstructed view, having your coffee and scone in the morning, and you see dolphins jumping next to you. I mean, it's just amazing. It's beautiful. It's really pretty. Now, Heather, you mentioned the South and the Christmas cruise and the holiday cruise. Are you familiar with the bonfires on the river at Christmas time?
Yes.
In New Orleans, yes. But you could tell us more about it for people who have no clue.
Well, it's the bonfires were built to welcome Papa Noel, which in French, obviously, he was Papa Noel, Santa Claus. And in order for him to have guide his way down the Mississippi River back in the day, bonfires were built along the river to guide Papa Noel into New Orleans. So it's typically done a week or so before Christmas, and it's quite interesting to see the fires burning on the side of the river. It's really cool, very cool. And the decorations at Oak Alley and Homus House, which are two of the most beautiful antebellum homes you'll ever see. Homus House in particular, I can't imagine how long it takes them to put those decorations up, let alone how to take them down. I mean, they are everywhere at Homus House. Oak Alley is roughly 20 minutes outside of New Orleans. And if you've not been there, it is spectacular. Yeah. It's live oak that opened up the house. And at one point, the house was in such disarray. There were cows that lived in it and ripped all the walls down.
Oh my God.
It has now been, completely restored, and it's absolutely magnificent. It's just beautiful to see it. And they serve a really nice mint julep there, too.
No, I know Oak Alley has a dock right in the Mississippi right there. Do you guys dock there, or do you guys...
We dock in Homus House, and it's that close.
In Homus House, that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah, at Homus House, and then you literally go to the top of the levee and walk across the street.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too, by the way. If anybody's got mobility issues, we carry golf carts, and people are able to jump in a golf cart and get to the top of the levee if they can't walk it, or if they don't want to walk it. I'm lazy, so I treat the golf cart personally. So, when we're on the Ohio River, we dock in Henderson, Kentucky, which I know sounds like, paint drying at Henderson, Kentucky, but I will tell you that there is one of the most wonderful shoe stores you'll ever go shopping at in your entire life in Henderson, Kentucky. It's pretty wonderful, which is across the river from Evansville, Indiana, on the Hoosier. Evansville, Indiana is right across the river, and that's where the Audubon Society started, and the Audubon is there. So you go to the Audubon when you're there. So
I didn't realize that.
Pretty cool. Yep. It's like when you go to Paducah and you go to the National Quilting Museum. Again, it sounds like paint drying to a lot of people. It's phenomenal. And to think these beautiful quilts are all handmade in this lost art that nobody does anymore, it's phenomenally beautiful.
So you go to Paducah. I can't pronounce. You
go
to
to
Paducah.
New Madrid, but it's not Madrid. It's New Madrid.
So do you take you across the river from Paducah to Metropolis too to see Superman?
Yes. Yep. So again, these are little known, if anybody wants to see the giant ball of twine in Illinois, they can find it if they really want to do that. We want to help people knock those things off their bucket list in comfort and in style. We're very much, simple sophistication. We don't have the fashion police. They're not coming to tell you what to wear to dinner and none of that nonsense.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask that. Like everything's casual?
No formal nights. I call it country club casual. We would prefer not to have jeans in the dining room, but again, the fashion police are not going to be there to say, get out. Not going to happen.
But khaki shorts would be acceptable, or does it have to be trousers?
It's fine. Okay. And by the way, if somebody's not a beer and wine drinker and they'd rather have a martini, dirty martini, by the way, that's fine. Just tell us and no problem. We'll bring it to you. We are as close as you can possibly come to being all-inclusive on the rivers. Now, when I was in New Orleans last in December on the Harmony, the Victory Bells is a singing group that performs nightly at the World War II Museum in New Orleans. If you've not been to the World War II Museum, I highly recommend it. It is phenomenal. And the Victory Bells are an Andrews-inspired singing group, and they come on to perform. They were amazing, and the crowd roared. I mean, they loved it. They loved every bit of it. It was fabulous. So that gives you some idea. We also have, of course, our guest lecturers. In the South, you will learn more about the Anaconda Plan than you ever dreamed in a million years as you're going into Vicksburg to go to the battlefield. And it's pretty interesting when you realize that that's what happened with Vicksburg, that they literally squeezed it like an anaconda. You learn all about that. You will go to that battlefield and the guide will point out every rock along the way. I'm not kidding. It's phenomenal. It literally comes to life for you so you can see what exactly occurred. By the way, that battle was going on at the same time as Gettysburg. Little known, but that's true. And the reason the World War II Museum is in New Orleans is because the guy that owned the company that built the landing craft for D-Day was in New Orleans. That's why.
That's been on our list. We've driven by that 2 or 3 times, but for some reason, Heather, we've never actually gone. I think because we usually go during carnival season, and
Yep.
it's just we're just so
A
busy
little
with.
bit too much.
But I hear great things about
It's
that
about end of the
museum.
quarter in the CBD, and it's well worth the trip. There's an entire building with nothing but airplanes.
Wow.
My dad was a belly gunner in World War II, so they have a guy sitting in the belly of an airplane, and I always think of him when I go there.
You know, we need, Heather. We need another guy to go with me because I know your eyes would just glaze over as soon as you said airplane. I'm like airplanes, and then Heather's like, oh, geez.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So I agree with you. The Columbia and Snake River out west between Portland and Spokane, actually it's Portland to either Clarkston, Lewiston, Idaho, that area. Spokane would be the closest air service on the end of that cruise. That is one of the most beautiful rivers there is. It is absolutely phenomenal, just phenomenal. So I
Linda,
either direction you go. You're going to run that route between basically April and October when the weather allows. And after then, it starts to rain and we get the heck out of there.
how friendly are American Cruise Line sailings for families? Like, are these sailings something that you'd recommend for kids or not really?
Nope, not at all. Now, having said that, we get a lot of multi-generational groups. That's not uncommon at all. And many of our cabins do connect. So it is entirely possible to do connecting cabins. And if people do have connecting cabins and they want the barrier taken down on the balcony, no problem. We'll take it down. So you've got one giant balcony for 2 cabins. That's fine with us. We'll do whatever's necessary. Kids that are history buffs, teenagers, that kind of thing, it's fine for them. But smaller children there's no kids program and that kind of stuff. There are hamburgers and hot dogs available because the chef will make anything you want. So
there's no age prohibition.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that we can accommodate any kind of dietary requirement there is for anybody. And what we do is the first day that you come on the ship, and typically you board the ship between like 11:30 in the morning after you've had breakfast at your hotel and get transferred along with your bags. We bring you in, you have lunch, and then after that there's a meeting with the chef for anybody who's got diet issues. And they go over with you one-on-one exactly what it is. And then they take your picture and it hangs in the galley. And the reason we do that is because you're not going to sit at the same table every night. And we want every server to know that Linda Heckman cannot have sugar in her ice cream. And they know to look for me. So it's totally cool. It's great. Works really well.
So it sounds almost closer to a private yacht experience than some of the river boats and some of the other small ships.
Yep, exactly. Beautiful outdoor space. The public areas are beautiful outdoor space where you can relax and read your Kindle, whatever you choose to do. It's just lovely. It absolutely is lovely. And when you're on the Mississippi in particular, the Mississippi is a very working river. So you're going to see lots of barges going up and down the river, lots of product being moved, lots of sugar cane, lots of rice when you're down south. Up north between the Twin Cities and St. Louis, different kind of feel, but it's the same thing. It's a working river up there as well. So people learn a lot about what's going on the river and the commerce on the river as well, which is really cool. It's very fun.
The other itinerary I'm really interested in is your main islands.
Oh, yeah.
That looks amazing.
Now, have you ever driven the Maine coast? Because it's entirely different doing it on a ship.
No, I've only done it on a ship once.
Awesome. I've done the lower, but I would love to do some of the northern, because there's all these little tiny islands that it kind of reminds me of the Inside Passage area going up to Alaska, but maybe more intimate because less people have done it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's incredibly popular. And again, a lot of these cruises are going to be timed when the weather's the best. We're not going to do Maine in January, obviously. The only itinerary that we offer year round is the Lower Miss. I mean, what do you think the summer is in the Twin Cities? July 4 to 8? I mean, come on. You can't be there very long. And before the weather gets bad in that upper Midwest area. So you're coming down, you're going down the city, you're doing those things where you can see how the river works. And the river's totally different at the top than it is at the bottom. Completely different.
So what are you doing with the? Are you relocating the ship? You have a lot of ships and a lot of itineraries. Are you shifting the boats from one itinerary to the other, or are you actually closing them down?
No. For example, the ships that are doing the coast may very well be chartered. We have a charter out for 6 to be used for, believe it or not, the RNC. So we'll see.
Money.
And that may happen. Who knows? The security for the RNC has asked us if they can charter our ship. So that's a possibility. There's 6 of them that would be there. Coast-wise, they're up and down the coast. And when the weather gets bad, obviously we're going to bring them down south. And when we can't operate them, we put them in a wet dock or put them in a dry dock, whichever it happens to be. The Constellation, the American Song, the America. The America is one of our paddle wheelers, by the way. And as well as the Queen of the Mississippi and the Queen of the West are 2 of our paddle wheelers. So we actually have 3 different categories of ships. Our brand new luxury vessels, river ships, which is the Song, the Harmony, soon to be the Jazz, and the Melody coming next year. Followed by the paddle wheelers, an authentic paddle wheel experience if somebody wants to have that paddle wheel experience. The America, the Queen of the West, the Queen of the Mississippi. And our coastal voyages would be the Constellation, the Star, Independence, those kinds of things. And those ships, because they're coastal, do have stabilizers.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I love the fact that the nose opens up on the new class of ships. I think that's really
cool.
We
use that. We do use it. It's not used every time, but for example, let's face it. When you're in New Orleans, they have a beautiful port facilities, as does Baton Rouge. But in Natchez, Mississippi, not so much. Yeah. So we use the nose. And it's very cool. People love it. That's one of the other things, by the way, that was instituted with the COVID protocol is that it's touchless. Everything is touchless on the ship.
Now, one of the areas that I'm particularly, and obviously I'm biased because I like to focus on the West Coast stuff, but I absolutely love the Sea of Cortez. Now, is there any talk of, and I know that would be ultimately docking either in San Diego and doing a really long cruise, or be docking in like Rocky Point?
Wait, that's a good question. I don't know. No one's ever asked me that. I have to throw that out to the powers that be.
Because it's so beautiful there, and between the the blue whales, that you can see, and the fishing and the beaches. Yeah. It's obviously a lot different cruise than Mississippi or something like that. But it's so close to home, and it's an easy drive from Phoenix.
Right. Well, you know what? One of our advantages again of being U.S. registered is that the Jones Act. We are completely different with the cabotage laws and foreign registered cruise lines. So, when the Jones Act tells foreign registered ships they can't sell transportation between 2 different U.S. ports unless they first call on a far distant continent, we are not governed by that. It's in our favor. So I can sell people Seattle to Juneau. I can sell people Seattle to Anchorage. I can sell people Seattle to San Francisco because we are not governed by that same cabotage law, being U.S. registered.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Altogether different.
Altogether different.
Well, I was going to say, I see that in the San Juan Islands.
Yes.
You do not go to Victoria, but do they get off on another boat to go to Victoria?
Yes. Yeah. Again, being U.S. registered, we are not by law allowed to make a call outside of the U.S.
So then, James, they would not be able to do Sea of Cortez.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Well, I mean, we could do it on land. I mean, we can get as close as possible and then do a shore tour, perhaps, something along that line. But we can't sail the Sea of Cortez now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that explains that. I'm just super passionate about that area because it's a weird conundrum, I suppose, with a lot of different areas like that. That it's so nice and so cool because nobody's there.
Yeah.
And I want to share it with everybody, but I know that if I do. Yeah. Then everybody will go there and it'll be less cool. But I know you guys have so many cool things. I'm amazed that more people aren't sailing you guys because the prices. I mean, yeah, it's more expensive than a Carnival cruise, but for what you're doing and the market that you're competing in,
yeah, it's I
feel like nobody is touching you guys.
Yeah, it's a completely different demographic. And even our competitors on the rivers, it's a completely different demographic. I have been in this business, I often say, since Jesus was a baby, okay? And this is my 8th cruise line. And I worked at one point for the great Delta Queen Steamboat Company, where I was vice president of passenger services for Delta Queen. And I worked in the past for the American Queen Steamboat Company. I know these ships and these rivers like the back of my hand, believe me. I'm often referred to as the goddess of U.S. river cruising. So any questions you have about rivers, I'm your gal.
So, and maybe it's with your customers probably being not as, as politically active in the progressive sense. So with the steamboats and kind of the antebellum tours and that kind of stuff, has that been impacted by some of the more recent political stuff
quite
going
frankly,
on?
we haven't been on the river since it happened.
Yeah.
Well, as far as bookings or people, adjusting things or updating narrative and stuff like that.
I put on the lower Mississippi yesterday for November of this year on the brand new American Jazz. And I put one on for April of next year on the America out of New Orleans. The one on the Jazz is going to be one way from Memphis to New Orleans. So anybody who wants to go see the ducks waddle in the Peabody Hotel and eat some good barbecue across the street of the Rendezvous and spend a couple of nights. We have a signature shore tour. Just to give you a little bit of guideline, our featured shore tours are included. The premium shore tours are ones that are booked on board, that somebody might want to book on board. And the Dolphin Discovery, for example, in Florida would be one of those. They typically run about $20 to $70 a person, depending on what people want to do. And premium shore tours are ones that are capacity controlled and require pre-booking. One of which would be the Hell's Canyon jet boat ride out on the Columbian Snake River. We also do a 2-night package in Graceland, at Graceland for Memphis. And, Graceland's changed completely. The Heartbreak is gone. They tore down the Heartbreak Hotel and they built a guest house across the street from Graceland. So our passengers stay at the guest house. They get a private tour of Graceland. And I'm so glad you're sitting down. We're doing cocktails in the jungle room.
Nice. That's amazing.
What?
We're doing the cocktails in the jungle room.
Oh my God.
I missed the beginning of that. So is that a included excursion or is that a
one that has to be purchased ahead of time and is very capacity controlled? They won't let us take 190 people into the jungle room, so it's very limited. And it's a 2-night trip. So people go into Memphis ahead of time. They have an opportunity. We'll shuttle them back in downtown again if they want to go to the Peabody and watch the ducks come down in the morning or watch the ducks go back in the evening at the Peabody. Zip across the street. Have you been to Memphis and know the Rendezvous at all?
We tried to go there last time, but we didn't. My friend went to school in Arkansas, and she said they would go there anytime they could.
Yeah. Literally, it's across the street from the Peabody. When you say to the Peabody, where's the Rendezvous, they're going to point right across the street. Or you can walk down a block and be on Beale Street and go to B.B. King's if that's what you choose to do. So it's all right there. And then zip you back over to the guest house at Graceland.
Weird fact about me, I will be 42 shortly, but I have been to Graceland 3 times.
Good for you.
I love Elvis, but each is a different trip. One was younger, one was in college. And then James and I 2 years ago, we saw the new and improved tour is amazing compared to what it used to be. All the cars and everything.
We had dinner in the car museum the last time I was there.
Oh, wow.
And I think the only airplane that's left is Elisa Marie, is the only one that's still there.
Oh, they got rid of the airplanes?
Yep, sold them off.
When we were there, they still had about, 3 or 4 of them outside.
Yeah, I think there were 3, and I believe the only one left now is Lisa Marie.
Well, that's sad.
So they're selling them off. Yep. Okay, it costs a lot of money to keep Graceland up, obviously. So
it does.
Well, I wanted to buy a jumpsuit because they had in their gift shop. They have Elvis, and I was like, "Oh, this looks really cool." I'll buy it, and then it looked like $3,500. And Heather's like, "Hell no, you're never going to wear that thing anyhow." But it was so cool. It had the rhinestones and everything.
When you go through that portion of the tour, when you see all those beautiful jumpsuits, can you imagine what those things weighed? And they're phenomenally beautiful. They're amazingly beautiful. Little known fact.
James,
you may already know this. The Arizona Memorial in Hawaii was single-handedly paid for by Elvis Presley.
Really?
He paid for that. Yep.
I didn't know that.
He paid 100% for the Arizona Memorial to be built.
That's a great fact.
Yep.
James, I was going to say, I think maybe it's time for you to buy a bedazzler. You could just make your own suit.
I could. Is that a threat or a challenge?
Challenge.
Now, supposedly.
So I'll be on the next episode. I'll be like.
Yeah, you have 1 week.
There was another jumpsuit in the works. He was planning to go on. He was planning to go on tour again, and there were more jumpsuits that were in the works being made. I'm going to give you one more Elvis fact, because happened to see him twice in concert. So I told my sister once, and she said, no, we saw him twice. His first professional concert and his last professional concert were in the same city, Indianapolis.
Oh,
Really?
I'm from Indianapolis, and that is where his first professional concert and his last professional concert were done. Yeah, I know. So sadly enough, we lost Mr. Charlie Daniels, 2 weeks ago now. Yeah. And Charlie did the voiceover for our commercials. And he was scheduled to do a couple more with us, all set to go. And sadly, he passed about 10 days ago. So the commercials were pulled. It's a fabulous commercial. And when you hear that unmistakable voice of Charlie Daniels, it's really something. It's really something. So it's kind of sad. I live in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's about 45 minutes from here. I was a very close friend of the family, and it's really sad that he's gone. But he is. We're also supporters and promoters of Skate America. So the U.S. national skating team, ice skating team, we support them completely and send our Eagle Society members get tickets to go see them all the time when they're doing their thing too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yep. We're all American, babe. We are 100% all American. We're going to support everything that we can do to make things better for people in this country. And we want you to go back to work. We want this thing to get opened up. We're planning to sail in August. Keep your fingers crossed. We'll be on the Columbia and Snake River. We'll be on the lower Mississippi River. Let's get this thing going. We're ready.
I definitely would like to connect with your PR team, because there's so many storylines for the West Coast side that I would love to talk about, especially the fact that you guys are starting to cruise now. And again, it's kind of frustrating when I talk to my buddies that the other cruise lines are like, yeah, well, that Alaska thing didn't work out. Oh, the Hawaii thing's not going to work out. But certainly I want to give you guys as much love as I can over on that side.
Absolutely.
I mean, even the San Juan cruise, like I grew up spending summers. I don't know if you know where it is, but Main Island is right next to Holiday, where you guys docked there. And that whole area is just so beautiful. And if you haven't ever been there, you don't realize just how amazing it is to explore the islands, because it's so much cooler than just simply not driving or flying, but floating by.
Oh, it's altogether different. Altogether different.
Get some Dungeness crab and.
Yep.
Ashley, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask Linda, if as sailings start to resume more in other parts of the world, I know Americans aren't really super welcome in Europe at the moment, but when they are, if someone's trying to decide between, say, a Europe river cruise or an Asia river cruise and a U.S. river cruise, what would you tell those people? Like, what is the selling point? What is why should they stay closer to home, apart from the obvious virus?
That is exactly it. It's cruising closer to home. It's, many of our guests are certainly very well-traveled people. They have certainly been to Europe a number of times. They've done European river cruising. I worked for a European river cruise company for 10 and a half years. So I know those rivers very well also. But if you're looking to stay closer to home and you want to be able to jump in your car and drive to Memphis and sail to Nashville and come right into Lower Broadway, which, our ships are able to, by the way, get under the bridges and do dock at Broadway, on Lower Broadway in Nashville. We don't have to stop in Clarksville. We can get under the bridge. People go honky-tonk and do whatever they choose to do, walk up to the Ryman Theater, whatever they want to do. It is a completely different kind of an experience. It is 100% all-American, visiting the beautiful sights to see in your own backyard. My experience with European river cruising, and I love it, and literally have been around the globe on ships. My experience with European river cruising is that Americans, for the most part, when they start European river cruising, is they want castles and vineyards, hence why the Rhine and the Danube are so popular. Okay? Mm-hmm. Then they want to go see where great-grandma came from. So they may venture a little further and go to the Elbe River or go to the Po in Italy, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, they're looking to dip their toe in the water because they want to see castles and vineyards. You are not going to see castles and vineyards on the Mississippi River. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. But you will see what makes this country work. And that is it. The commerce on the river is what makes it happen. So go to the top of the arch and look at the Eiffel Tower from there. And then when you come back down, go to the hill. Are you guys familiar with St. Louis at all?
Yes.
Bit.
Fabulous section of St. Louis. It's called the Hill. And they have some of the best Italian food you'll ever put in your chopolos. I guarantee you. It's amazing. The Italian section of St. Louis is pretty darn incredible. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that people find when they're struggling, when they're looking around. You know, they'll go to Laclede's Landing in St. Louis. They'll go to Busch Stadium and see what Busch Stadium's all about. You know, they'll do those kinds of things, and they tell the grandkids about it, and they love it. They love it.
Now, the itineraries that you're opening first will be Mississippi and Snake.
Columbia Snake River first, and then followed very rapidly by Lower Mississippi.
Okay. And then you have to wait for, or you said you're going to do the fall.
We are going to do the Hudson River for fall foliage. We are going to do the Upper Mississippi for fall foliage as well. Yeah, those are all planned. And, you know, quite frankly, our ship should have been in the water a month and a half ago, or a month ago now, so that we could have gotten this under our belt. Unfortunately, it's a day-by-day issue. If the governor tells us, yeah, no, we can't come. We can't do it. And we also have to make sure that what people are going to see along the way is open and able to accept them, and that they have their protocol in place. You know, it doesn't do me any good to take on a Lower Mississippi cruise and not be able to get off the ship. What's the point? You know. So we have to make sure.
Plantation.
We have to make sure that those along the way, you know, if you want to go to my grandmother's Buttons in St. Francisville, Louisiana, she better be open. You know, and that's a fun little store too, by the way. I sound like a shopper, don't I?
Linda, I'm curious and this is more just like a ship nerd kind of question. But you know how, like with an ocean ship, a lot of them right now are just anchored off the coast of XYZ port. In the case of a river ship, like the ones you guys operate, if they're not actively sailing, where are they? Because I'm sure there are port fees involved if they're just tied up somewhere for days and days. Because they can't just anchor in the middle of the river, right? I mean, they have to.
No, but they can anchor at the port facilities, and they are. So out on the Columbian Snake, we are in Portland anchored. On the Lower Mississippi, we are out there anchored, or docked, I should say, in New Orleans and in Memphis, that type of thing. On the East Coast, our yard is right there. Our yard's in Salisbury, so we can take the ships to the Chesapeake and put them in our yard. But by the way, the ships are refurbished every year. Refurbished is the wrong word. They're freshened every year. After the season, every year, every ship goes into a refreshening. So all the soft furnishings are fixed and changed and so on and so forth.
I'm so sad that I didn't know that you guys were in Salisbury, because I was actually out in Salisbury last fall.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see it. I'm an ambassador for Purdue Farms, and so they're based right there well, not, I don't know if it's actually Salisbury, but right there next to Salisbury. Anyhow.
Yeah. That's where the yard is, in Salisbury.
That would have been really cool to see a shipyard like that. I've never.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I don't go to Freeport or to Fincantieri or whatever over in Europe. I mean, that would be cool too. But it'd be cool to see an American. So for those of you guys who are wondering, that's where American Song is currently in Portland.
There you go.
So I just up ship nerded Ashley, because I actually track the ships on my phone, which is
those 4 new ships: the Song, the Harmony, the Jazz, and the Melody. They're all very, very similar, but I want you to keep in mind that they are sisters. They're not twins, so they're not going to be exactly the same. So I don't want anybody getting upset saying, "Well, cabin 345 on the Song was port, and it's starboard on here," or whatever the case may be. They're sisters, not twins.
Are they generally the same cabin layouts, just different design and stuff?
Exactly. Okay. Oh, and by the way, let me mention this, because this is a big deal too. Most ships have nothing larger than a queen when it comes to bedding. Our beds are all kings, and they all split. So all you do is tell us, do you want 1 bed or 2? That's all you tell us, and we'll make it whichever way you want. But they are kings.
As a bigger guy, thank you so much.
Yes.
I love my wife. And but sometimes having a king is good for the marriage.
Absolutely, I'm with you. My husband believes that wholeheartedly, and it really does make a difference. I mean, I had a guy came up to me at a show in January, and he was like 6'8". He's like, "How big are the beds?" I said, "They're kings." He goes, "Oh, thank you, God." Yeah.
Is
So
there
are you
any?
guys familiar with our sister company? We have a sister company.
No, I didn't
Maybe
know
not.
that.
Okay, again, U.S. registration. By law, we cannot call outside of the U.S. So in order for us to be able to do the Great Lakes, we created another company and we foreign flagged a ship, and it's called Pearl Seas. And the ship is the Pearl Mist. And with her, we do the Canadian Maritimes. We do the Great Lakes. Obviously, none of that's happening this year, but that's what her intention is. And she used to go to Cuba. So obviously nobody goes to Cuba anymore. So we did a trans-canal cruise, a Panama Canal cruise to replace that. So she is the Pearl Mist. She is a 200-passenger ocean-going vessel, and she's beautiful.
Oh, nice.
So that allows us to go to Sault Ste. Marie. It allows us to go to Toronto, those kinds of things. And the Canadian Maritimes, if you've never done the Canadian Maritimes, I have. Love it. It's wonderful. This is where Eastern European or Eastern Canadians go to vacation. So a lot of French Canadians vacation in the Maritimes. It's beautiful.
So that's what the Pearl Mist looks like, guys.
Yep. She's awesome.
So,
nice.
she gets around if you're going to we're going to Cuba, but then the Great Lakes.
Right.
That's one of the bucket list thing. I mean, to be able to go through the locks on the St. Lawrence Seaway and the Great Lakes would just be a super awesome experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And her passenger club is called the Oyster Society.
I like oysters too.
I was going to ask you, Linda, with the new ships, is there something different about the new ships altogether that you're just really excited about?
Yeah, they're so sleek and beautiful. There's an atrium that's got all this beautiful light with the glass that's in the atriums, like a 4-story atrium, and all of them. The beautiful natural light that's coming in on these ships is just phenomenal. It's absolutely beautiful. That's a really big deal for me because I love to have that beautiful, fresh light coming in. And that's very prevalent on all 4 of those ships. Very exciting. Yeah. And again, our cabins are going to be a little bigger too. The paddle wheelers have very decent sized cabins, but the new ships have got even bigger cabins and even bigger suites.
So I think this is the atrium you were talking about.
It's exactly it, and it is spectacular. Now imagine that decorated at Christmas time with all the poinsettias everywhere. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Is there a signature food dish that you guys make that throughout all of your ships that people say, hey, I'm looking for this because you guys are known for it?
Well, I'm going to say no, and that's because what we're attempting to do is show off the cuisine of the region that we're in. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get a lot of Cajun food, and you're going to get a lot of Creole when you're down in the South. You're going to get tons of seafood in the Pacific Northwest. By the way, the ships all have a putting green as well. And keep in mind, please tell people it is not a driving range, it's a putting green. But they're welcome to use it, it's fun. So that cuisine is going to be absolutely regionally inspired.
Okay.
On every itinerary, yeah.
So do the chefs do cooking demonstrations on board?
Yes, they most certainly do. Yep. And they're very talented.
You got to book some cruises on American Cruise Lines, Heather, because I want to go.
I know. Hey, I'm here to book. Anybody watching this on replay or right now, hey, come book with me. I'm excited. I love the United States, like traveling in the U.S. I've got a lot of friends that have traveled everywhere else, and they're like, well, the U.S. is boring. And I'm like, it's not. There's so much to do, so much to see.
Remember the first time you saw the Grand Canyon? Remember the first time you saw Niagara Falls?
Oh,
Did you ever go to the top of the Empire State Building or the Sears Tower in Chicago, Willits Tower it is now? I used to live right behind the Hancock Building, so I'd spend a lot of time on the 95th floor of the Hancock Building.
Yep.
I love that. The signature room.
Those kinds of things are, I'm sorry, that's wonderful. I grew up in Indianapolis. My father worked at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I grew up at that racetrack. I still go every year. I'm not going this year, obviously, but
Well, the Indy 500 is going to be played in September, right? Or not played, but races.
No, it's supposed to be in August.
Right.
August, okay.
Yeah, I won't be there, but typically I will be.
I love my IndyCar, but I will probably, even if I got invited for a press trip, I'd probably say next year.
Yeah. Well, they'll make a decision. Hopefully, they'll make the right one. So.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to take place in August. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that, the wine country of California, those kinds of things that you can experience in your own, literally your own backyard, your own backyard. You don't have to take an 8-hour flight across the pond. Unless you choose to. And I personally think, Heather, that there's plenty of room for everybody at the table. There really is. There's plenty of room for everybody at the table. I'm not about to tell somebody, don't go to the Danube and come on the Mississippi River. I'm not going to do that. I believe that there's room for everybody at the table, and people that want to experience what's in their backyard will make the right choice.
I agree as well.
And do the other one next year.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going away.
Yeah.
Let's face it, it's not going away. So.
This COVID-19 has been horrible, but there are some positives that have come out of it. And I would say that the fact that people are looking to explore more in the United States and find out more about their country is a great thing that's come out of it.
Yeah, I will tell you that my philosophy is every red light eventually turns to green, period. So, isn't that the truth? Every red light eventually turns to green. And the glass is always, always, always half full. It's never happened. God, I sound like Pollyanna, don't I? Well, I believe that. I believe that to be true. I think we will get back to what things are supposed to be. We'll make the right choices. We'll get this done the right way, and we'll pick up our lives and move on. Yeah. And, when people ask me, were you around? Were you working in the travel business when 9/11 happened? Honey, I was working in the travel business when the Achille Lauro was taken. So, yeah, when Chernobyl happened. I remember every bit of it. Oh, believe me, I know.
Exactly.
But, what makes me feel good is that this company is very solid, and that I, along with my colleagues, nobody's lost their job. We're all still doing our thing. I've worked from home for years and years and years, so it's nothing new to me. It is to people that are used to being in an office. Nothing new to me, but we're going to keep on doing what we're doing, plugging away. We just do it a little differently now. And I wish I had stock in Zoom before this happened.
Well, thank you so much for all the information today, Linda. I know we've all been talking about stuff, and we've been very curious because we all want to do river cruises here in the U.S. Do you guys have any other questions, Ashley or James?
Well, I guess the last thing, and I apologize for asking all these questions. So, what's the typical customer look like, in both geographically as well as age?
Typically, you're going to have a customer that's pretty well traveled, that has probably been on a river cruise in Europe before, may have sailed with us many times before. About 65 and up, so boomers are very big with us. When I was on the Harmony in December, there was a couple that live in Minnesota and have a huge farm. So, they were on their 11th American Cruise Line cruise, and came off of one of our ships to go on the Harmony in New Orleans.
I would love to be the travel agent on that account.
Yeah, she was on with them.
Oh, yeah.
In cases like that, where you have people who repeat cruise with you guys a lot, do you find that they do the same itineraries over and over, or do they switch it up?
They have done virtually a third of what our itineraries are going to be. They absolutely love the new ships. So wherever the song, harmony, and jazz and melody are going to be, you're going to find them. They love it. But they also like the Star, and they love to go on the Constitution and the Constellation in Alaska. Don't you love the names of these ships? I love it.
Your Alaska cruises must be amazing. I saw the itineraries, and
it is. And the last day that we're on board before we're docking in Juneau, we set up a beautiful hot chocolate bar on the ship when you're in Glacier Bay.
And hopefully you got some whiskey too.
It's like if you've been to Haleakala and Hawaii, to Maui and Haleakala. The guy that makes the most money in Hawaii owns the hot chocolate booth at Haleakala. We set up that beautiful hot chocolate bar on the aft of the ship in Glacier Bay. It's phenomenal.
You mentioned Hawaii. Do you do Hawaii too?
No, but I want to. No, because we're just, we don't have a ship in Hawaii.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All of us met in Hawaii on a Norwegian cruise. So that's one thing. I don't remember where the waves can be pretty rough though, can't they?
Well,
So
just right around the islands, we weren't more than, I mean, we were barely off the coast for the entire, I mean, aside going between the islands, I'm sure that was current, but
yeah.
I mean, we pretty much on that cruise, we pretty much went to bed and then woke up the next morning in a new port. I mean, I
Right,
don't
in
remember.
Newport. Back in the day, I worked for American Hawaii as well.
Oh, okay.
So that is back in the day.
So you are the goddess of cruises.
Oh, I am. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And people laugh at me when I tell them, but it's true.
I would love to buy you a bottle of wine and just listen to the stories off the record that we can't necessarily share. I'm sure you have an amazing, years of stories that would be awesome to hear.
Yeah, we all have those funny stories too, don't we? That we will never forget. When people say funny things to us, it's hysterical. I'm telling you, when we're just talking about
Thank you again, everyone, for being on. And if you're looking for a cruise right here in the U.S., look for American Cruise Lines and see which itinerary is best for you because there's so many. So many.
Absolutely. 35 plus in 25 states.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yep.